Donald Trump was in Washington, D.C. earlier today for a disastrous appearance with House Republicans who are basically all full MAGA now. He spoke to them at the Capitol Hill Club, and the topics he discussed was his love of Hannibal Lecter. He said that Milwaukee, which will be the city hosting the Republican National Convention, was a horrible city. He mused about potentially having a romantic relationship with Nancy Pelosi and called Nancy Pelosi's daughter a wacko. He then said that the DOJ are a bunch of bastards. And this was after he sent an email early in the morning the day before saying that the other side, who he calls swamp creatures, are trying to behead him in a guillotine, and that the swamp creatures are also trying to behead all of MAGA. That is what Donald Trump is doing now. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's stooges in the House held another hearing to attack prosecutors, but fortunately, the kind of new ethos of the Democrats in the House of Representatives is to push back and go on the offense. So we saw some great pushback and some great commentary by Democrats like Adam Schiff and Congressmember Eric Swalwell, which we'll talk about that and some other things that went down at these hearings earlier today. Meanwhile, President Biden is attending a G7 meeting. He helped usher in a new 10-year security deal with Ukraine, providing planes and weaponry. And this follows the Treasury Department putting more sanctions on Russia at a critical moment where Russia had to basically shut down its markets and shut down its banks to prevent a run on the banks. There's clear momentum now that we're seeing. Finally, now that Ukraine is getting the weaponry and funding that they needed, and Russia was counting on its MAGA Republican stooges to block that, and some good economic news as well. So I would say overall, the term of the day, the term of the week is momentum. You want to call it Joe-mentum. You want to call it pro-democracy momentum. You have the kind of steady, normal leadership of President Biden on the one hand. You have Trump's erratic and unhinged behavior on the other hand. But you also have it being more noticeable now that the media has decided to actually cover it after we and other independent media, although I want to compliment our editorial team and all of you watching and listening to this in making it an important prerogative that this needs to be covered, that Donald Trump is unwell, that he is unhinged, that he is cognitively impaired, that he is a wannabe authoritarian, and the dangers he poses. Momentum, 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 truth, truth, truth. Brett and Jordy, MeidasTouch Podcast has started. What's going on, guys?
And we got to flood the zone with truth, right? That's the only way to combat all this craziness. We got to continue to flood the zone with truth. And, you know, I spent this weekend thinking about all the issues that I know most Americans care about, like what I would do if there was a boat and I needed to either get electrocuted or potentially be eaten by sharks. I know that's on the top of the mind of everybody sitting around the table with their families, and you're all trying to think through that. You know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you have seen this clip that we've been playing constantly. And I want to bring it up because I'm happy that finally we're seeing things like this covered on the mainstream news, on the corporate media, because it shows you that this stuff is finally breaking through. And I find it entertaining a little bit when I see people post, like I've seen all these other sorts of people online also posting then the weightlifting, the sort of weightlifting thing. and they're shocked when they see it for the first time. And they were shocked when they saw the electrocuted by sharks for the first time.
Right.
And I'm like, we've been saying this for like over
We've
a
been
year.
saying it
But by the
so
way-
much, Brett, that the Midas Mighty made me stop playing the weightlift clip.
It's so true.
You're
We
like,
almost
"Can
got
you
a
stop
boycott. There's
playing
rumors of
that clip?"
boycott.
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is why, honestly, this is why repetition. You got to do it until it kicks in, and we're at that point now, that sort of inflection point where you feel a shift, I think, in the way things are being covered as well, right? And I think you're starting to feel a shift of people tuning into things, and I think in many ways, even Donald Trump's conviction may have woken people up to the reality of the situation, and kind of knock people into, holy crap, there's a convicted felon, running for president, and he's got a shot. And so I think people are more focused, and we're going to see that continue to ramp up. And these things that we've been covering on here for a long time, and other incidents that are going to occur, they're going to become bigger and bigger stories when when people are actually focused on them, and people realize, what the heck is this guy saying on a daily basis? And even today, in a very controlled scenario, Donald Trump returning to the scene of the crime, going to Capitol Hill, and just like doing a version of his rally. Like, it was supposed to be a policy speech, but he kind of gave a weird version of one of his rallies. And even Fox reporters were like, oh, it was rambling. It was all over the place. He was going on tangents. There were some people that were like bored in the room and had no idea what the heck he was saying. Like he quite literally can't control himself when he goes on these tangents at this point. And it's very peculiar to watch, I will say, but we'll get into that in depth. But first, I got to check in with brother Jordy.
I'm doing great, guys. But Brett, that's exactly why Fox News is already giving Trump like the out to not debate, because everyone around him in his inner circle, has seen the writing on the wall. Right. So not only is he a convicted felon, but then right after that, he goes and gives that bizarre press conference where he's sweating and he's deranged. So now more Americans are just tuning into, oh, my goodness, not only is he a convicted felon running for the president on the Republican ticket, but he's losing. He's literally crumbling in real time. And everything that he's done since has just been magnified because of those moments, because Americans are finally waking up here. And like, we've played the electrocution clip before, like we've been talking about that. And part of the things that we've said on the show is that Americans are going to wake up eventually and see this stuff for the first time and have the reactions that they've been reacting with today. It's incredible to see for the first time because of just how immensely scary it is. He is unwell. He is unfit. He is un-American. Ben, what's up?
Well, as I've always said, wait till the American people find out that Donald Trump and the Republican Party no longer play the national anthem, and that they've taken our great national anthem and replaced it with a song by the January 6th insurrectionists, and they call it the J6th anthem. Wait until the stories are written about how Donald Trump addresses the crowd and makes them salute and pledge to the J6ers, who Donald Trump says are the most horrifically treated people ever, and that they are hostages. And then Donald Trump goes, free him, Joe, free him, Joe. And then Donald Trump in his speech goes, and then she goes into the weightlifting room, and then she goes,
See, Ben stopped playing the clips often, but Ben does the impression himself now. So I don't know if that's better or worse.
I wish this did a live spit take. I didn't realize he was about to go to the weightlifting.
Better, but I had to do it.
Better.
It is though why Fox, using the RNC account, they have to inject the craziest propaganda, right, to go after President Biden. They have to take an hour speech of Biden and try to find, and they do a good job at it. But if I had $15 billion, I think I'd do a good job at it. Like they have all the resources in the world. They focus on like the millisecond where they even like alter the footage, and it'll be like President Biden like sitting down slowly, and then they'll like slow down,
and they'll cut it before he sits.
we got him. and then they'll take the whole hour of Donald Trump's speech, and then they'll reduce it to Donald Trump saying, "You're fired. You're fired." Like, that's all they show their base. And I just think that part of the conviction of Trump, because the American people were sold a bill of goods, that Trump was going to be acquitted or there was going to be a hung jury. And I just think part of it is the American people, like, we're played. What happened? And then they started digging into it and they were like, oh, I see what you did. You did this with the red wave. You did this with the trial. You're playing me again, over and over again. And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, as George W. Bush said, you can't fool me twice. You can't fool me more than once. And I think people are seeing that right now. And I just think it is important, though, with this momentum, to now go into overdrive with the truth and just sharing with people what's really happening here. I want to talk about what happened today. So, as the news was trickling in from Republican leaks, so the Republican members of Congress were leaking this out to people like Jake Sherman and CNN's congressional correspondent team. So I saw this one from CNN where they were like, so we've just learned now that Donald Trump is at the point of his speech where he's praising Hannibal Lecter again. Here, let me show you this.
Lauren, and I will note from our Melanie Zanona, who is in the room and sending some of these tidbits out, apparently the former president made reference to Hannibal Lecter and said, nice guy, quote, he even had a friend over for dinner. So we've seen Trump out on the campaign trail praising Hannibal Lecter. Apparently he did it again this morning. Not sure we fully understand the context of that, but thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.
I don't think anybody understands the context of it.
Chad, I do like Acosta a lot.
Chad Pergram. This is what Fox was reporting from House GOP sources. Fox is told that the remarks by former President Trump to House GOPers was wide-ranging and had lots of tangents. One GOP member says, I lost interest after about 45 minutes. Fox is told that Mr. Trump indicated that he is what was characterized as a big fan of President William McKinley. That's because how McKinley handled tariffs. One of the things Donald Trump said is that he wants to eliminate all income taxes and just fund the government based on all tariffs. One of the things he said as well about Steve Scalise, who got shot and did courageously recover. I think Steve Scalise is a horrible human, a horrible politician who wants to take away your freedoms. But let's face it, it was a courageous recovery. And what happened to him was absolutely horrific when he was shot many, many years ago. But this is what Donald Trump said. Steve shows great courage. I saw him in the hospital. I can tell your wife really loves you, Steve, because some wives wouldn't care. Whose wives wouldn't care if their husband got shot? Oh, I think I know the one who we are talking about here. I think I know who we may be talking about. The person who we've never seen around her, who renegotiated her post-nuptial agreement over and over, who refused to be seen at the criminal trial with Donald Trump and who's refused to be seen anywhere near him.
But wait a second. There were all those stories in the papers a few months back that Melania was getting ready to take a front and center role in the Trump camp. That was 4 or 5 months ago at this point. And did I miss it? I feel like we've watched all the clips, but I haven't seen her once, I don't think.
You know, one of the things that, and we'll talk a little bit later in the show about Ukraine's momentum, but what President Zelensky did so well was he had an infrastructure built to call out Putin's moves many steps ahead. And one of the weaknesses, there are many, but one of the weaknesses of authoritarians is that they're so kind of sociopathic. They're also predictable in their actions. So you're able to predict the moves that Donald Trump, like a Putin, are able to make in advance. And so it's incumbent on pro-democracy media to call it out in advance, to say exactly what he's going to do, which is why we say he ain't testifying at trial. He's too weak. He's too cowardly. He doesn't testify at trial. It's why we have to call out. He's not debating. He's going to come up with an excuse a few days before and say it's rigged. President Biden's on drugs. President Biden's not agreeing to a Fox debate. Whatever the excuse is, I'm under a gag order. He's going to make that up and try to back out of the debate. And we know when Donald Trump runs to page 6 of the New York Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch, and it says sources say that Melania is going to be a major part of the campaign. Sources say that the criminal conviction has brought Melania closer together with Ivanka, and the families never bonded like this before. Sources say, we know it's Donald Trump or Stephen Chung from his campaign or Jason Miller or somebody like that. They feed it to page 6.
John
page
Barron.
6, the Post runs it. Fox then covers what page 6 says. Then after Fox does it, all the media kind of copies it. Then you get all the stories out there that say this thing, and it's discernibly false. So what do we have to do? We have to call it out the moment. And we did go back when those page 6 stories hit, even longer ago, like 9 months ago. That's why we ran all those stories about Melania and the lies, because we wanted to say, here's what they are doing to empower people with the playbook of where they're going. What Donald Trump did talk about, though, is a potential romantic relationship with Nancy Pelosi. That's how Donald Trump spent his time at the Capitol Hill Club in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump goes, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, she's a wacko, but her daughter told me if things were different, Nancy and I, we would be perfect together. There's an age difference, though. There's an age difference. And as Jake Sherman says, that was basically the exact quote that Donald Trump gave. Christine Pelosi responded, speaking for all 4 Pelosi daughters, this is a lie. His deceitful, deranged obsession with our mother is yet another reason Donald Trump is unwell, unhinged, and unfit to step foot anywhere near her or the White House. And you also know that at Donald Trump's traveling fascist circus events that he calls rallies, one of the topics he often brings up is making fun of Nancy Pelosi's husband for almost being murdered. And then Donald Trump mocks the fact that Nancy Pelosi's husband was in boxer shorts when he was almost killed by a MAGA intruder, to insinuate that the intruder and Nancy Pelosi's husband were involved in a homosexual relationship together to spread a unhinged right-wing conspiracy and then to go after Nancy Pelosi's husband. So I want to give you that context as well. Donald Trump also in this event says that what the MAGA Republicans need to do is be very supportive of all of the state abortion bans, and that it would be a winning issue for them to lean in and just say states, 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 whatever the states want. One of the things, too, is Donald Trump doesn't have a vocabulary, so he can just say states over and over again because he actually can't articulate a policy. But he also believes that women shouldn't have reproductive rights and freedoms. He's previously said, we have him on the record saying that women who seek reproductive care should be arrested. That's what Donald Trump has said in his own words. And I know corporate media didn't want to take that seriously when he said it, but those are the words that he said. He also said that states should, and it's not what he said at the Capitol Hill Club, but what he said before is that states should be allowed to monitor women's periods and monitor women's pregnancies, and that doctors should be arrested who provide reproductive care if that's what the states want. And then Donald Trump said to House Republicans, Milwaukee, where we have our convention, is a horrible city. Direct quote from Donald Trump. Milwaukee, where we are having our convention, is a horrible city. The news of that spread because it was Republicans who were leaking that to the press. Then on the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the largest paper by far in Milwaukee, has on their homepage, Trump calls Milwaukee horrible city weeks before the RNC comes to town. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin, who I am such a fan of Senator Tammy Baldwin. She goes, Milwaukee makes the greatest beer, brats, and motorcycles in the world.
Brats.
It's home. What do you say?
Bratwurst.
Oh, Bratsworth. Brats. It's home to some of our most vibrant communities, hardest workers, and is part of what makes Wisconsin the best state in the nation. Donald Trump wouldn't understand even if a jury told him so. No brats, just brats. Representative, no brats, just brats. Representative,
the dolls.
Representative.
They got the best. They got the best dolls.
They made great Bratz dolls in Milwaukee. They got the Bratz factory. They got some of the new Brats.
I learned a lot of new things.
Such
about
a Jordy
Wisconsin
comment. Representative Gwen Moore goes, once he's settled in with his parole officer, I'm certain he will discover that Milwaukee is a wonderful, vibrant, and welcoming city full of diverse neighborhoods and a thriving business community. President Biden posted his photo that he took with the Milwaukee Bucks when they visited after winning the NBA championship and they went to the White House. President Biden says, I happen to love Milwaukee. And then all of the MAGA people and Trump's campaign panicked, almost like I've never seen them panic before.
Freaking out. Oh my gosh.
So then they had all of these Republican Congress members go on the record, but because, the truth is easy to tell, but the lies are often hard and you have different versions of the lie. Mm-hmm. You had some MAGA Republicans say, he was saying it was a horrible city because of election fraud. Then you had other MAGA Republicans saying, no, he said it was a horrible city because the crime is through the roof. By the way, the crime is down 50% and crime is actually in a pretty good state in Milwaukee, far better than when Donald Trump was in office. Then still you had other MAGA Republicans say, no, he was criticizing the city for not having a First Amendment zone near the convention. And so he was actually attacking the kind of parks and recreation in Milwaukee for their unwillingness to have a First Amendment.
We know Trump really gets in the weeds about local parks in other states. I'm sure that's my favorite, though. Then you have all those people making comments like that. And then you also had a handful of these MAGA Republicans saying he didn't say it at all. Didn't say it at all. So you have like dozens giving different excuses for, yes, he said it, but he actually meant this. But for a straight shooter, he sure means a whole lot of things. He may say, but he actually meant crime. He actually meant the economy. He actually, and by the time you're listing all those things, it's like, okay, so he hates the city, right? You've just named all the things about the city. So I guess he hates the city. And then you have the people who just say, nope, he did not even say it at all. Just the constant gaslighting that comes out of these things. And just what an unforced error also, like to go into a closed door meeting with Republicans and to trash a major city in a key swing state. Just imagine if Biden went around to different places and just started trashing different areas of the United States. And this is a common thing that Donald Trump does.
That's right.
And not to mention, and we could play this clip in a little bit, but like almost immediately after he had the House GOP meeting and he met with the Republican senators as well, he started trashing the United States of America, saying America is not a special place. And he said that on camera, the other part. So it's like, while you're denying it in one area, he then comes out on camera a few minutes later and he talks about how crappy America is, which is like the main theme of his entire speech. And we've heard him crap on cities on every stage that he goes to. It's a common thing that he does. So it's not exactly out of character for him. But I think one of the things we notice is Donald Trump also speaks to different audiences. I mean, first, as we mentioned, we noticed that Donald Trump cannot seem to have a single coherent thought and message. He cannot stay on script, and he is just, and I think folks are kind of beginning to recognize this as well, especially within his own party. I saw a comment online from an account called The Shallow State, who works with that group Duty to Warn, which is a group of mental health professionals. And they made this observation that I agree with quite a bit. They said the GOP is deeply concerned about Trump's mental state and panicky about it getting into the public narrative. We know this because of how hard they're peddling the opposite. Trump was on Capitol Hill, and instead of the GOP speaking to the content of the meetings, their talking points were he's happy, laughing, confident, in good spirits. Everything they say is confession or projection. Everything. Trump is miserable, serious, desperate, and in terrible spirits. And I think that is such an accurate point of view, such a good perspective on what we are witnessing anytime we see Donald Trump enters these areas. One of the other things that we're seeing is Trump promise everything to everybody. And it's one of the ways he also kind of trips up the media into covering him, because he'll go in front of one audience and say abortion should be banned. He'll go quite literally in front of a group that says abortion should be completely eradicated. That's who he gave his speech to yesterday, and we'll play that clip soon. Completely eradicated. He'll speak to them. Then he'll go to a different group and he'll say something like, it's actually up to the states, and whatever you want to do, everyone loves it. It's great. Everything's working out. And so he dances around every subject. He doesn't actually have any beliefs, and he's just making these random promises that, of course, he's never going to keep to anybody, because they're all contradicting one another, because he is desperate and panicking for votes, because he knows that this thing is slipping away from him. And with it slipping away from him, his freedom is also slipping away from him, because that means he's got to confront the reality of his crimes and the judicial system.
Trump is running his campaign right now, Brett, and no offense to fifth graders, but like a fifth grader running for school office for the first time, where he goes up on stage and he's like, cancel homework. We're not going to do this. He just makes all these absurd promises to garner, hope and sympathy or votes for whatever platform he's spewing. And it's just not going to work out well for him, because the media now, MeidasTouch, the Meidas Mighty, we're all on the lookout for all of this. And I love that we get to call out his BS every day.
Not only is Donald Trump committing unforced errors, I think the most generous description of him is a walking unforced error. It's probably the nicest compliment you can extend him, because in fact, he is kind of a walking weapon of mass humiliation for the United States of America, especially in the eyes of the world. We have a lot to discuss. Want to remind everybody about our Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy media network. We don't have outside investors, so the way we build this is through our Patreon, through our emojis, and through our pro-democracy sponsors. Let's hear from some of those pro-democracy sponsors now.
This episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast is brought to you by Manacora Honey, also known as honey with superpowers. Let me share something sweet with you, and I mean really sweet. It's something that's become a staple in my routine, and I think you are going to love it. I'm talking about Manacora Honey. When I say honey, you might be picturing those bear-shaped bottles in the supermarket, but that is not what this is. Manacora Honey is single origin, rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you've ever had. It's supercharged with unique antioxidants and prebiotics, and is 3 times more than your average honey. Manacora Honey supports immunity, aids digestion, boosts energy, and helps balance inflammation. It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 to 3 teaspoons a day. On top of that, Manacora Honey has a natural antibacterial compound called MGO, only found in Manuka honey. So if you're looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine, we found your new healthy habit. And now it's easier than ever to try Manacora Honey with the starter kit. Just head to manacora.com/Meidas to get $25 off. The starter kit comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, plus a guidebook. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You could bring them with you when you're traveling or need a quick snack running errands, and they are the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. That's manacora.com/Meidas to get $25 off your starter kit. This is the ultimate honey. Indulge and try some honey with superpowers from Manacora. Look, this stuff is amazing and really provides the pump I've been looking for. I look forward to Manacora every morning. Make sure you click the link in our description or head to manacora.com/Meidas and try some out today.
Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health. When you are sleeping well, you can perform at your best mentally and physically. Introducing Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. If you know me, you know that Dream has been an absolute game changer for my sleep. I drink Beam's Dream Powder each night in order to get my optimal sleep, and I have to say, I would not be recommending this if it didn't actually help me. And today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. Now available in delicious flavors like chocolate peanut butter, cinnamon cocoa, and sea salt caramel with only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. Other sleep aids could cause next day grogginess, but Dreams contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. The numbers don't lie. In a clinical study, 93% of participants reported Dream helped them get better sleep. Beam Dream is easy to add to your nighttime routine. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk, froth, and enjoy before bed. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Meidas and use code Meidas at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/MEIDAS and use code Meidas for up to 40% off.
Let's go. Brett, amazing reads, amazing products too. I love me some Manacora honey. Love me that Beam. Absolutely. Definitely check it out. Links are in the description of the audio and the YouTube. Click them. Great discounts, great products, frankly. Just gotta love them.
Great.
So Ben, I know we're about to going to talk about Trump just being an unforced error. Just that whole metaphor of just him being a walking unforced error. The man is just truly unfit, unwell, un-American. And he continues to attack America, Ben, every single day. It's ridiculous. My governor here, Governor Shapiro, actually called him out. He said, Trump, stop shitting on America. And honestly, just stop. It's weird behavior where you have to see yourself and hear yourself day in and day out continue to just unload on the American people, on the cities, on the states. It's a bizarre thing to experience of somebody who's running for president, who just truly hates this country. And then can we also just talk about for a second, just the weird structure at which Donald Trump even put out that sentence, the Milwaukee, where we're having our convention is horrible. Like it's just weird. The guy can't speak. He can't speak at all. You put this man on a stage with President Biden and have them debate, President Biden will wipe the floor with him. He is a coward, Donald Trump, and he is going to, honestly, there's no way he's going to debate. Ben, every day it gets closer. I think you're 1,000% right.
I think Governor Shapiro said, stop shit talking our great country. I don't think he said stop shitting on the country.
Might have to take it to the tape on that, but
we will go back to the tape on that. Over the weekend, of course, Donald Trump said to the people in Las Vegas, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. So he told the people of Vegas that he doesn't care about them. Today, he said that Milwaukee is a horrible city. As a reporter, Windsor Man writes, to recap, Trump also said then he hates New York even more than I should. He called California a disgrace to our country. He said Chicago was embarrassing to us as a nation. He called Baltimore a disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. He said Iowans were stupid. He said people from Beverly Hills smell badly. I could probably give you countless other examples like this, but Donald Trump quite literally shit talks. He goes around the country. And now he has the people at his events, and this was fact-checked as true. Our reporting was by Snopes. The Trump supporters, they wear diapers to his events. Some of them carry or they sell next to the coffee pee funnels. And I understand that pee funnels can come in handy sometimes at big festivals or whatever. But I mean, you think that Trump could provide some porta potties if he's raising all of this money. So if you think about the site of these events where there are all these MAGAs They're now wearing shirts that say, "I support the convicted felon wearing diapers, peeing on the floor in pee funnels, while Donald Trump is talking about being eaten by sharks or his love of Hannibal Lecter." That is now what the Republican Party has become, and you can't normalize this one bit, but the media will try to do it. We've told you everything that went down at Donald Trump's event, at his speech in the Capitol Hill Club. Well, here is how the Associated Press, and this is everything wrong with corporate media. This is how the Associated Press reports on it. First off, just even look at this photo of Donald Trump. Like this, he's sweaty.
Describe it.
For those listening, Donald Trump is orange. He is sweaty. His hair is disheveled. His bottom teeth are like he's almost making a shark impression face, and he is sweating all over. It is gross. He's got random pieces.
He looks like in that moment that he's deciding whether he should get eaten by a shark or electrocuted by the. I think that that's the face of that panic. I think in that in this screenshot.
And the Associated Press writes, Donald Trump made a triumphant return to Capitol Hill on Thursday, his first with lawmakers since the January 6, 2021 attacks, embraced by energized House and Senate Republicans who find themselves reinvigorated by his bid to retake the White House. As one commentator wrote, did Donald Trump write this tweet?
That's bonkers.
It is a bonkers description. And they act like January 6, 2021 was like this attack that just happened and he's there to re-energize them after this solemn event. You mean a convicted felon showed up on Capitol Hill, talked about Hannibal Lecter, his hatred for the city where they are holding the convention, mused about a potential romantic relationship with Nancy Pelosi, and then attacked the United States of America. And you've described that as this was a triumphant return. Like they are quite literally not literally. It feels like they are just plugging in, hey, AI, please write for me whatever the kind of fascist strongman version of this is. And then you give the direction to AI. Please include nothing about what actually happened. And that's what actually kind of spits out right there. But then that propaganda is buttressed by these MAGA Republican, stooges like Marjorie Taylor Greene and MAGA Mike Johnson, whose description of this, what was supposed to be a policy talk, was he was so nice to us. He's remembered my name, and he said, "Are you being nice to Mike? Are you being nice to each other?" I am not exaggerating. First, let me show you what MAGA Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene does as she fangirls over Donald Trump. Let's play that one first.
I really found his speech to be one of my favorite speeches. He came in, talked to the conference, was very honest. He was funny. He was joking around constantly with everyone. He was really sweet to me. He said to Speaker Johnson, he goes, "Okay, you got one more seat. You need to be tougher." He saw me. I was sitting back a little ways. He saw me in there and he was like, "Hello, Marjorie." He's always so sweet and recognizes me. And he said, "Are you being nice?" He was joking. "Are you being nice to Speaker Johnson?" And I said, "Eh." And he said, "Okay, be nice to him." And I nodded my head. And then,
"Please be nice to him." And then he said, "Hey, Marjorie." And so I said, "Hi." And it was the greatest speech. He was there. He was saying words. And he said, "Mike, are you being nice to her?" Now, here is the Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson, gushing over Donald Trump. Not anything that Donald Trump said in terms of policy, but this. Play the clip.
Former President president give his endorsement to this leadership team, and does he want you to continue to be the speaker after the November election?
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause. He said, I'm doing a very good job. I mean, we're grateful for that. Look, we have to have continuity in leadership. We have to have a plan, and it has to be very carefully executed.
There were applause and people clapped, and he said nice things about us. I mean, this is a cult. Now, let me show you this part too. This is where Donald Trump, when he's recorded here speaking for like 3 minutes or 5, and then he stopped talking. This is the part where he held the press conference with the senators, MAGA Republican senators. He spends the short period of time trashing America and saying America is not special in this word salad of a speech. Here, play this clip.
But we have to get elected. We have to take this beautiful place and we have to make it really something very special again. Right now, it's not special. Right now, it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of democracy. And they're getting away with murder, and we're not going to let it happen. So I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank everybody here. You're all either elected or you're going to be elected again and reelected. And
I mean, what in the world even is that? I mean, it's just a bunch of word salad. He's not even saying, he's not putting together any coherent thoughts. And look, I've come to expect that he is this, generously put, a walking unforced error. I think more of a walking weapon of mass humiliation for our country. But when you see, I guess it's a good thing how mask off he has allowed us all to see who these Republicans are. Like when you see them standing behind someone who belongs to be in a straitjacket versus actually being in the halls of Congress with senators. And these people who are supposed to be serious human beings are equally as clownish, if not more clownish than him, pledging their fealty to this bizarro human who's saying the craziest crap in front of him. I just watch that in kind of just utter disbelief. And again, as I have always said before, to me, this isn't political. It's why I often say this show is really not that much about politics. It's more about human nature. Let me tell you what politics would be about. President Biden is at the G7 meeting. He has a 10-year plan with Ukraine. A security arrangement is reached to provide all of this weaponry to solidify G7 alliances. That's in conjunction with serious sanctions that have been put on Russia by the Treasury Department that are absolutely stinging Russia right now to avoid a run on their banks. They've shut down their banks. Their markets have had to be shut down. Now, you can say, I think that this foreign policy by President Biden goes too far. I would disagree with that. I think it's well tailored. You can say that I think that President Biden's policy does not go far enough and that there needs to be more money that's spent supporting Ukraine. You can say President Biden should have acted quicker, should have put troops at the border at an earlier time. I don't know. I'm giving you examples. I think President Biden's handling it well. But if we wanted to have a political discussion on appropriations and really had a intelligent conversation, and somewhere along the lines, agreement or disagreement with any of these positions, to me, we can talk about that as potentially politics. Okay, the infrastructure bill. There's 40,000 infrastructure projects spurred on with government spending. Which is, we'll talk a little bit later in the show about some great economic metrics and inflation falling. And to me, that was the right move. But you may have a policy difference with that and think that government shouldn't be involved in that, which I would disagree with. But that to me is at least we're having a political discussion. We're talking about politics, right? And to me, that's actually what politics once used to be about. Right now, we have President Biden representing the United States of America with dignity at the G7 meeting. And on the other hand, you have Donald Trump sending out emails at 4 a.m. in the morning that his opponents, who he calls swamp creatures, are trying to behead him and haul out a guillotine to behead him and his supporters. Donald Trump is talking about fictional cannibals in movies and saying that he likes them. Donald Trump is attacking American cities. So it's not the fundamental flaw is that the corporate media, for a variety of reasons, has a framework that what Trump and the MAGA Republicans is doing is politics and part of a legitimate political discourse whose roots have a tradition in an adversarial two-party system, when in fact, the Republican Party has been taken over by a MAGA virus, a MAGA mutation that has turned it not into an American political party where we have policy differences, but into this bizarro cult of Donald Trump where you have the leadership saying, oh, he was so nice to me. He was really nice. And did you see him? He shook my hand. And that is fundamentally everything our country is against. And I think that's how we need to frame what this is all about, what's going on now.
Yeah, there's a general thought that, I think in traditional kind of journalism, that if you're giving one side of the story, the other side of the story should have equal weight and both parts should be equally represented. Maybe there was a time where that worked, I don't know, but when a party has been taken over by such a malignant movement, then that framing becomes dangerous because that malignant movement knows that no matter what they do, no matter how extreme they go, you're going to treat them in the same exact way. And you're going to hold them up in the same exact light that you're going to hold up.
Say this? I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't even interrupt you. Treat them better. Go out of your way to baby and coddle them and augment them, whereas you treat the traditional American pro-democracy perspective with a deep cynicism that's politics, but you hoist up the fascism side and you coddle it like some baby and, oh, it's all rigged against you. Oh, it's so upsetting. Oh, they're being mean to you. When pull yourself up by your bootstraps, huh? I mean, what in the world are we talking about? They're babies. We're treating
That's how they treat them, and I think it's
who cry and whine. Oh my God, you're being mean to me. President Biden has been so mean to me. You've been so mean to me. When has the media ever in our history been like, oh my God, have they been mean to you? Yeah, they've been mean to me. He says mean things, President Biden. That's a crazy concept to me, and it's not a political thing. They're whining babies who just complain about everything and then support our enemies. And the media's like, but be nice to them. They deserve to be treated with respect. Sorry.
That's because you got a little Adam Sandler in there at the end.
I picked up on that too.
Yeah, it's because they have a history, the Republicans, of working the refs, so to speak, of constantly making these kind of grandiose claims that there exists this liberal media and this liberal media bias, which quite frankly has never existed. And so in return, those reporters want to go out of their way to ensure that they sound unbiased. And so they add like a weighting kind of scale to their reporting in order to try to make it seem like they're unbiased, but you're never going to win. Like, you're never going to win that game. And also, I think the kind of stochastic, kind of terroristic nature of MAGA and the way that they attack anybody who says anything badly about them. I mean, we've all been the victim of kind of attacks by these people. We see what happens when they get motivated and they gang up and they start attacking, various people for doing things like saying, that that all people should live together in equality, like the big MAGA thing last week was MAGA attacking Miss Rachel, the YouTuber who makes videos for children, because she said that LGBTQ people are people and deserve the same rights as everybody. Like, nothing controversial, but the vitriol in which they all gang up and attack people at any time, I think frightens certain people, and I get it. It's a scary thing when you have that energy coming at you, and it's coordinated, and there's a lot of them, and you're getting these notifications, and other things happen in real life, and it could be scary. But at the end of the day, you have to remain strong, and you have to understand that they're doing that because they're scared. They're doing that because they don't want the truth to come out, and that's what almost makes it a million times more important that you need to get those messages out. It shows you the importance of telling the truth, because the truth is the biggest antidote to this MAGA virus that is out there, which is why we need to constantly be flooding the zone with truth.
Flood the zone with the truth, with the facts, with the evidence, with the clips, with the, when we clip too, we clip the context, and it is important. Like when Asen does the clips or Philip Kowski does the clips, we play from a little bit before where it starts to also a little bit at the end where it starts, so people can see. The whole point of a clip is that it's a clip and it's not the full speech. If you want to go and ever watch the full speeches, watch them.
Watch the full speech.
We actually, as part of our corporate news policy, we make it a requirement that the little bit before and a little bit after as well. You probably see that, and I hope you appreciate that with our clips versus some of the others that may exist from the other side, that is the pro-fascist side or wannabe fascist side. Anyway, we've got a lot more show to go. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
It's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating, so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and feel as nice, if not nicer, than the sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, cause breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Meidas, MEIDAS, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle, TRYMIRACLE, trymiracle.com/Meidas, and use the code Meidas to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Meidas to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Growing up, cereal is one of the best parts of being a kid, but as I got older, I had to watch out for sugar and empty carbs. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but high protein and less sugar. Like with the variety pack, 4 flavors are cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. This pack has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Only 140 calories a serving. It's high protein, has 0 grams of sugar. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. I'm a sucker for the cocoa cereal personally, and when I have my Magic Spoon, I always know it's going to be high quality, fresh, crunchy. You got to love that chocolate milk the cereal makes when you're done with your bowl. Go to magicspoon.com/Meidas to grab a variety pack and try it today. Be sure to use our promo code Meidas at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, start your day off right with a delicious bowl of high-protein cereal at magicspoon.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas, that's MEIDAS, to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode.
Let's go. Shout out to the pro-democracy sponsors. Yeah, Magic Spoon, delicious. They have a lot more product offerings too. They have like these like cereal bars now on their sites. They're phenomenal. And Ben, you and I were actually just talking about Miracle Made sheets. You're a huge fan of those.
Look, I feel more relaxed. I hope I look a little bit more relaxed on.
Is that why? I've been seeing a lot of comments about you like looking glow. Ben's got a bit of a glow up going on. You're attributing it to the Miracle Made sheets?
I think I'm attributing it to, marriage, post-marriage glow, but also Miracle Made sheets.
There you go. Well, links are in the description of the audio on the YouTube. Click them. They're wonderful products. I've only heard good things, so definitely hit those up. And brothers, we passed 3.6 billion views of the MeidasTouch Network. Congrats, guys. Congrats, Midas Mighty. Let's go.
Such a wild number, huh? It's like, I feel like
3.6 billion. Yeah. Man, that's not possible without this amazing community. If you have not subscribed yet, it's the easiest thing. You just got to hit the subscribe button. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers. So crazy.
When we hit 99 billion, I want one of those signs like McDonald's has. That's like 99 billion served. That's
I like
what
that.
I would like. That's what I would like to get.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
It's my goal.
I'm going to write down a note right there and take that under advisement. Big ruling from the Supreme Court earlier in the day. We're going to start to see some major decisions that get handed down. They upheld, it was a 9-0 decision, unanimous decision, upholding access to mifepristone and rejecting the plaintiffs who wanted to have mifepristone banned from everywhere, banning its sale, banning its distribution. There was a MAGA judge in the Matthew Kaczmarek, district court judge in the Northern District of Texas, who initially found in favor of the right-wing plaintiff groups that wanted mifepristone banned. Fortunately, the Supreme Court agreed to stay that order, so mifepristone was still made available. Then there were proceedings before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which actually found certain FDA regulations that allowed access to mifepristone to be invalid. So while mifepristone was available after the Fifth Circuit ruling, Fifth Circuit ruling would have, as my dogs are barking in the background, the Fifth Circuit decision would have prevented certain types of access to mifepristone. Then it went before the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found that the plaintiffs in this case, these right-wing groups, lacked what's called Article 3 standing to be able to bring the lawsuit in the first place because they weren't specifically injured. They were just kind of right-wing special interest groups who suffered no actual injury from mifepristone. They were not required to provide mifepristone. There's actually a federal law that says if a medical doctor has, it's defined as a conscious objection, that their conscience prevents them from giving it, they don't have to. So basically, the Supreme Court ruled since you're not forced to give the mifepristone, these groups don't have standing. They're not injured in any way. So I think that was actually the right outcome. The way the Supreme Court reached it was not on the merits. They reached it on a standing grounds that the plaintiffs could not sue. But the bottom line is that mifepristone will be available. And it's just also interesting, too, though, because this comes when I'm not sure if you saw the new Gallup poll numbers. That's and Brian Stelter posted this as well, quoted it, says a record high percentage of voters told Gallup that abortion is the key issue that will determine their vote this election cycle. Nearly 3/4 of those single issue voters are pro-choice. But I think the better way to frame it too is pro-freedom, pro-women's reproductive rights. And I think it's so important to message and reflect that this is about MAGA Republicans taking away freedoms, and they are attacking women's reproductive rights. I think that's important. And with all of that going on too, Donald Trump spoke this week at the Danbury Institute, and the Danbury Institute stands for the proposition that abortion must be ended, and that the organization is not going to rest until it is eradicated entirely. And the group calls women's reproductive rights child sacrifice, is what they say. And I'll just show you what Trump said to them. But Trump says, basically, you, the Danbury Institute, will make a comeback like just about no other group. I know where you're coming from, and I'm going to be with you side by side. And again, they call women's reproductive rights child sacrifice and say that they need to eradicate all abortion, no exceptions allowed whatsoever. Here, just so you can see what Trump says in his own words to this group. Here, let's play it.
I know that each of you is protecting those values every day, and I hope we'll be defending them side by side for your next 4 years. These are going to be your years, because you're going to make a comeback like just about no other group. I know what's happening. I know where you're coming from and where you're going, and I'll be with you side by side. So again, thank you once again for everything you do.
And then want to remind everybody as well, remind you, you may have seen some of my hot takes earlier in the day on this, but the hearing that was held in the House of Representatives today, MAGA Republicans held this hearing to try to attack prosecutors who have been prosecuting Donald Trump. It backfired in their faces when Democrats came with the facts. So first, let me show you Congressmember Adam Schiff, who quoted the jury in Manhattan that convicted Donald Trump. Let's play this clip.
I want to begin by quoting the jury in the Manhattan hush money payment trial. Guilty, 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 guilty. This was what the jury pronounced unanimously on every count. My Republican colleagues don't really contest Donald Trump's guilt. This is the fascinating thing. Their argument is essentially he should never have been prosecuted, or they falsely claim it was a political prosecution, or they falsely claim it should have been a misdemeanor, not a felony. But they don't contest, not really, that Donald Trump was making hush money payments to a porn star to hide their affair from voters. What they're really saying is they're more than comfortable nominating and electing as the President of the United States someone making hush money payments to a porn star. The party formerly of the moral majority is now, I suppose, hoping to fashion some kind of immoral majority to reinstate Donald Trump as president.
And just to prove that point, that the MAGA Republicans are not even arguing that Trump didn't do the act. They're just saying he should be able to do whatever he wants to do, and that this somehow sets a bad precedent that if you made hush money payments to porn stars and then falsified business records, the weaponized government can be coming after you. That's what the MAGA Republicans spent their time talking about at this hearing, that Americans who pay off porn stars have a lot to worry about right now, and that's unfair. You don't believe me? Here's MAGA Republican Victoria Sparks. Play the clip.
Interestingly enough, when talking about intimidation, threatening, and disinformation, I would say, I'm not an attorney. I'm actually a CPA and been involved with finances for a very long time. And I think a lot of Americans should be intimidated and worried if they pay bill to attorney and put it legal expense and they can have 34 felony counts for that, that is true intimidation. That is a true what the law is, you know, so that would make anyone very nervous, you know, but
I don't know. Did she just say that? Did she say she was Putin's CPA or that she was a CPA?
I don't know. I think she's Putin's congresswoman.
Did she say she was Putin's CPA? I possibly heard Putin, but I may have been the one who put that in. Anyway, Brett.
So many things I'm not going to say about that clip.
Brett, can I may have just said Brett? Can you may or may not have Brett? Can you tell us about what's going on with the economy?
I would love to, but first we gotta introduce everybody's favorite segment on the MeidasTouch podcast. You know what time it is.
This is the NetSuite by Oracle Know Your Numbers Minute.
Yes, shout out NetSuite, Oracle, Know Your Numbers Minute, where we get to deliver. Ben's laughing. Ben likes my title cards. Ben likes my reads, right?
You do great. You do great reads.
Do a good job. Some great economic news. The economy. I can't look at Ben without laughing now. The economy.
Throw up those logos.
That's such a good point.
I got you. We got to do NetSuite, right? Absolutely. They're big partners of ours.
Absolutely love them so much. So inflation, guys, 0% in May. It's a big deal, obviously, a really, really, really big deal. May saw the lowest monthly headline inflation reading since July 2022, the lowest core reading since June 2023. And ever since then, the markets have really been on fire because this is hinting that rate cuts are indeed coming. The S&P and NASDAQ hit their highest levels ever in history today. It's the 29th record of the year for the S&P and the 17th record of the year for the NASDAQ. We're just seeing some incredible statistics. And, you know, it's always important to have the data, and NetSuite provides you with easy access to economic data and trends through their integrated analytics. And here are some trends that are worth mentioning. Consumer prices, as I was saying, held steady in May, helped by a drop in what drivers paid at the gas pump, per the statistics that were released on Wednesday. Another good thing for consumers, grocery prices were slightly down. And the May CPI report is the fourth report in a row showing a decline in average grocery prices. As a reminder, this is also in addition to the May jobs report that we had reported on last week, which came in much higher than expected. The U.S. added 272,000 jobs, far surpassing any of the expectations, and wages have continued to increase at a higher rate of inflation. So inflation, certainly an issue. It's good to see that it's cooling off. Definitely difficult, you know, for Americans, and we have a lot more work to do, but it's also great to see that that's cooling and that wages are increasing at a level, real wages, meaning wages increasing at a rate that's higher than the rate of inflation, which is always, an important indicator of how things are going. You know, NetSuite also allows you to stay on top of government economic policies through their agile system updates that quickly adapt to any changes. For example, this is worth mentioning right now. The Fed held its interest rates at its meeting at 5.5%, but they said a cut could be coming in September based on this latest inflation report. A big report out of the Washington Post as well. They are saying that the success of the U.S. economy is powering the entire global outlook. It's increased the entire outlook for the rest of the world. The global growth is expected to reach an annual rate of 2.6% this year. That's up from the original forecast of 2.4%. And that's per the World Bank. And they say that's thanks to the overperformance of the U.S. economy, which no one really expected. And get this, also, the U.S. is the only advanced economy right now that's growing significantly faster than the World Bank anticipated at the start of the year. Here's a quote from Dermot Gill, the World Bank's chief economist. Sounds like an economist's name, right? Globally, overall, things are better today than they were just 4 or 5 months ago. A big part of this has to do with the resilience of the U.S. economy. And so there you have it. I think that's a lot of information. We try to pack all the information in pretty quickly, but you know what this is, right?
That was the NetSuite by Oracle Know Your Numbers Minute. Do you know your own numbers for your business? Download NetSuite's ultimate KPI checklist right now at netsuite.com/Meidas.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And you know what? While we're talking about this stuff, we should talk about manufacturing quickly also. Manufacturing is booming. We've talked about the manufacturing super cycle that economists are calling the period that we've entered. And now as more and more data comes in, a lot of economists and places are putting together charts of the data, and it shows you the perspective of like what that actually means in practice and how it compares to kind of the past. And so I saw this graph, which I think is worth sharing. This is the manufacturing boom that's currently happening right now. And this boom is happening because of the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, it's directly related. And so this is a graph that's up right now. And you could see during the Trump administration, remember every day, Infrastructure Week, it's coming, Infrastructure Week. Well, you see infrastructure during the Trump administration increased very slightly at some point and then started a downturn. Then you see where the Biden administration comes in. And then once Biden starts passing his legislation, you see a massive spike. You see the American Rescue Plan, it goes up a little bit. You see the Infrastructure Act, it spikes in a huge way. You see the CHIPS and Science Act, a major spike. The Inflation Reduction Act, a major spike. And it shows you what folks mean when they say that we have entered this manufacturing super cycle. Manufacturing across the country has ramped up at such an incredible rate. And I know a lot of people have been sending me, kind of photos, and I've seen a lot online as well of various manufacturing projects happening in where people live. And it's cool. And, they've been putting those signs up also, which I think helps people kind of connect the dots to that this is because of the infrastructure law and things like that. Oh, this is cool too. Speaking of manufacturing, the Port of Baltimore is back open. Remember the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge a couple months back, hit by that cargo ship in late March. Well, the port at the bridge has been fully reopened for business as the restoration of the bridge continues. And so that traffic, that commerce is continuing now ahead of schedule. And, it's a big deal. That's why competence matters, and as we've said on the show a lot, like problems are going to happen and you can never predict what the problems are going to be. But when those problems happen, you want like serious people. You want people who are able to evaluate situations from a place of what's best for the country. How do we get things back on track? And you want those people in the right place at the right time.
President Biden, meanwhile, has been in Italy attending the G7 summit with world leaders. We talked about that earlier on the show. We also talked about how the U.S. and Ukraine signed a new 10-year security cooperation agreement. Let me show you right now President Biden speaking about it. Let's play the clip.
25 additional countries joined us quickly. Each agreed to forge a long-term bilateral commitments with Ukraine. President Zelensky and I have just now signed that agreement between the United States and Ukraine. Our goal is to strengthen Ukraine's credible defense and deterrence capabilities for the long term. A lasting peace for Ukraine must be underwritten by Ukraine's own ability to defend itself now and to deter future aggression anytime in the future. The United States is going to help ensure that Ukraine can do both, not by sending American troops to fight in Ukraine, but by providing weapons and ammunition, expanding intelligence sharing, continuing to train brave Ukrainian troops at bases in Europe and the United States, enhancing interoperability between our militaries in line with NATO standards, investing in Ukraine's defense industrial base so in time they can supply their own weapons and munitions, working with Ukraine's partners to build a future force that is strong, sustainable, and resilient, and supporting Ukraine's economic recovery as well as its energy recovery after Russia has repeatedly targeted Ukraine's energy grid with massive attacks in the futile attempt to break the will of the Ukrainian people. All these lines of efforts and others are laid out in this agreement. Additionally, the G7 achieved a significant outcome this week on the matter of Russia's frozen assets in Europe and other places outside of Russia. Back in 2022, 2 days after Russia's invasion, members of the G7 and the European Union worked together to freeze $280 billion in Russian central bank funds outside of Russia. I'm very pleased to share that this week, the G7 signed a plan to finalize and unlock $50 billion from the proceeds of those frozen assets to put that money to work for Ukraine. Another reminder to Putin, we're not backing down. In fact, we're standing together against this illegal aggression.
We're not backing down. In fact, we are standing together against that aggression. And look, we're not backing down here on the MeidasTouch Network. The pro-democracy community isn't backing down. We are working together. We are continuing to grow, continuing to expand, continuing to get out the truth, to get out the facts, to get out the evidence, and to bring people together with enduring values, support of our democracy, support of our Constitution, but then also support for being good people, being compassionate, treating others with respect, respecting the basic human dignity of others, being a good member of the community who contributes with positivity. Those are important things that we all need to reflect on. I think love will prevail, democracy will prevail. And where historically it hasn't, it has been because the forces of bad, the forces of hate, the forces of authoritarianism have used whatever their tactics are to just try to demoralize people and to make people think that they don't have power. You have the power to make a major difference. You are the reason our democracy is going to prevail. It's the work that you put in each and every day, sharing the truth, having communications with other people, letting people know what's up. That's what's going to save our country. And we're so grateful for you, Meidas Mighty. We're so grateful for you. Make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast on audio as well. So wherever you get your audio podcast, search MeidasTouch Podcast, subscribe. That goes a long way to help the show. It's free to do.
Yeah, do that right. Do that right now. I'm watching it. Let's do that.
Do it right now. We released daily pods too on the non-long form brother show days. We release about 3 daily pods that are like 17 minutes, super snackable. So yeah, great way to listen as well.
Store.MeidasTouch.com is the home of all of our pro-democracy gear, 100% union made, 100% made in the USA. It was also an exhibit thanks to Donald Trump's lawyers who introduced that many times during Donald Trump's criminal trial. So get the real MeidasTouch gear, not the knockoffs. Ours is, there's some things that I like when people copy, not our merch. Because it's very important for us that it's made well and it's made by union workers and it's made in the USA. So store.MeidasTouch.com. Also check out patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have after shows, we have Zoom meetups, we have a lot of other great benefits there. And why don't we do this too? For those who are on the fence, should I join Patreon? Should I not join Patreon? If you are a member of the Patreon community right now in the chat, tell others if you think it's worth it. If you don't, you could be honest. If you think it is worth it, put it in the and let people know if you think they should join patreon.com/MeidasTouch right now. I want to thank all of our pro-democracy sponsors. They step up big as well. Jordy Vetzum, we're grateful for them. They help with this network. And they offer great services and great products. So you can check them out. In the description below, you'll see the discount codes. Brothers, always love doing the show with you. Meidas Mighty, always an honor to be able to share this time with you. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get to work. Y'all are the best. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstallenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Meidas Mighty. Let's use our power well.